Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm just saging a little bit. I just sort of scooted in here. So, just preparing myself. Hopefully, you felt that some of the tension, or if you felt tension at the beginning of the week, hopefully, you feel like some of that tension has released. Um, I know I do. I was feeling all sorts of stuff these last few weeks. And now it's just feeling like it's settling. It feels like we're coming back to center. Let me just put this out because I am right below, I'm right below the fire alarm, whatever that thing's called. So I don't want too much smoke to go up there, but I do want to just open this time. I know this isn't our my sacred circle time, but to me, this is still sacred time that we're together, and hopefully you feel that too. I want to be able to support, um, you know, guide, love. I don't know, whatever it might be, answer questions to anybody that's looking for that. And I know that I receive that in my own life as well. And so I know that there's so much value to that. So even though this isn't my sacred circle, this is still sacred time to me. So hopefully you feel that as well. Like I said, so just sort of setting that scene. I will say I was in Target last weekend and I walked past the candle aisle and I was like, what is that smell? I was just drawn to this candle. And so I'm going to light that today. It's just a little wood wick candle that I bought at Target. I don't get any I don't get any residual compensation from that by having this, but or by plugging Target. But it's just coastal wind and lavender, and for whatever reason, it was the scent that I was needing that I didn't know I needed in that moment. So I'm going to light my candle for that. Today we're going to be talking all about self-reflection and rest. Man, did I need rest this week, especially. I found myself getting up with my kids. My kids get up super early because my daughter's in, they call it early bird gym. And I was getting up at like 5:30 and so exhausted. I was like, I just need to go back to sleep after they were off to school. I'm like, I just need to rest for myself. So if you've been feeling that way, if you're kind of running on fumes, I know it's the end of the summer for a lot of people, beginning of the school year. So it's so busy. If you have kids, otherwise, I feel like there's so much that was busyness and doing in summer. And now it's starting to slow down a little bit. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's starting to slow down a little bit. We're going to usher in fall soon, which is sort of exciting. And so I wanted to just take this time to honor that practice. So because I am who I am, I have little notes to myself so I don't forget to touch on anything that I thought was important. Like I said, the past few weeks, I have been getting a lot of messages about self reflection and rest and the value in that from all over the place. And one of the things that was interesting about this full moon that we just had is there were so many planets, planetary bodies in retrograde. And for me, that's all about this time. Retrograde is all about this time for like just taking a little bit of time to look at our patterns, our cycles, our habits, our relationships, maybe things that haven't been working for us or for our highest good, and beginning to think about how we can shift that. And maybe it's just like a little tweak. Maybe it's like blowing it up completely and doing a 180 shift or pivot. But I was laughing to myself because I was saying in my mind, shifting with a T happens, and then I was like, shift happens. Maybe I'll make a t-shirt of that. But I was like, yes, we have to keep shifting. We have to keep navigating not only within ourselves, but in our world in a way that really feels authentic and genuine. And I thought, what perfect timing with the full moon coming in. The full moon, a time for really seeing how things truly are in our lives or what's really happening for ourselves in our lives, and giving space to feel the feels, to allow the emotions to come through, but also to just release what hasn't been serving you. And I know it's a big phrase to say release what hasn't been serving you, but hopefully we can break it down into something that are little meaningful nuggets so that you can release things. I think that 1-2 punch of just the retrogrades and the full moon really was setting me up personally for a time of just looking at like what's not working in my life, why isn't it working, what could I do differently, what do I need to add in, what do I need to let go of. And so it was a huge time for self-reflection for me, and I'm sure it was for a lot of you as well. So hopefully this is something that's helpful for you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight, little tips, little nuggets for how you can do that releasing process, making space for new growth. But then also at the end, yay, we're going to do a little bit of distance Reiki. And I didn't write a full meditation, but I have some words to go with that energy. So hopefully you enjoy today. If anyone's been feeling the stress or the tension with the full moon or the retrogrades, let me know, put it in the chat. I don't think I'm the only one that's been feeling it, but just in case, you can put your thoughts down there. I know there's a little bit of lag time on that, so as soon as I see it, I will be able to read it. So when we're talking about releasing, when we're talking about shifting, when we're talking about self-reflection, my first thought was, I know, take a deep breath every time. The message was coming through of like, you need to get out of your own way. Like, seriously, you need to get out of your own way. If it feels like you've been stepping on your own toes or tripping over your own feet, it's really time then to get quiet and sort of stand still just for a moment so that you can see like, why is this coming up for me again? If you felt like, I thought I already worked through this, or here it is again, it's because of the retrogrades. But we always peel back the layer and there's something else there. So whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but it's always something else, right? But if you feel like it's kind of been me, like that's okay. I think most of us go through those periods where it is kind of us that are creating that stress or tension. So when worry and anxiety, which is code word for fear, makes us do wonky things, and we get stuck doing wonky things over and over again. We create patterns, including thought patterns. We have certain habits, even how we live our lives and the relationships that we invite into our life or maintain within our life can really it really can come back to like, what am I doing to create this situation? Yes, some people can be unhealthy. Yes, they can be dysfunctional. Yes, we can be in problematic situations, circumstances. However, I'm making a choice, whether it's a conscious choice or a subconscious choice or unconscious choice. I'm making a choice to continue to put myself in that state, that experience, that relationship, whatever it is. So it's like, how do I pause and pull myself back for a little bit and just stand still? It's easier to release. I know sometimes that's a biggie, but when you can go back to that place of like trusting your own wisdom, trusting your intuition to help you navigate your life, I feel like there's a little bit more ease with that when we're feeling very good about where we're drawing our information from, our intuitive information from, that we are trusting that we have wisdom. I know that's something that's like comes up for me all the time. I like to discount what I know, and then I'm like, oh wait, I do know something, and it is wisdom, because it is for all of us. It is for all of us. So we can start when we have that trust. We can start thinking about like, what do we want instead? So when we're thinking about releasing, we want to release something that's not serving us so we can welcome in something that we want instead. And we can't do that if we're keep going, pushing, doing. Sometimes we just need to have that stillness. So that's my first, I don't know, bit of advice. I don't know, whatever you want to call that, about how can we begin that releasing process. And I know sometimes it feels, for most people, it feels very counterintuitive when you're trying to make something happen in your life to stop and rest and get self-reflective. But it's so vital to get back into, or how we're going to get back into that flow and ease is we're going to relax the body, relax the mind, take some breaths, and we sort of shift that perspective, because we go from being like stuck in just seeing the tree to pulling out and being able to see the entire forest, right? So I know when I tell clients, like, the first thing that you need to do is just take some time for yourself. There's always resistance to that. There's always a reason why they can't, why they don't have enough time, why they don't have enough money, or whatever it might be. And part of me is like, but you got to, you're going to keep tripping yourself up. You're going to keep stepping on your own toes. So, and then the other part of me is like, I get it. How can we make that compromise, or how can we make that choice that makes it feel a little bit easier? So I just wrote down like a little practice that I do. I guess I didn't have to write it down because I do it, but just a little practice for if you're like, I don't have any time, I don't have any, I don't know, strategies. I don't have any, I don't know, you need money to be still, but this is a practice that I use. So it's sort of taking a moment, and it can be just a few minutes to just reflect and have the imagery. For me, I take the imagery of either a feather or a leaf being carried on the breeze. So sometimes that wind is going to pick it up and put it on the ground, right? And just sort of rest it there. Sometimes the wind is going to pick it up and like turn that feather over, turn that leaf over, and just take it, on the thermals or wherever it goes. So sometimes there'll be that sort of energy where every side is touched and refreshed and then placed somewhere out of our vision, somewhere out of our sight. We don't see where it goes after a while. Or sometimes it can just sort of nudge and can kind of hit the feather or the leaf and move it a little bit, but nothing really happens. It's just, oh, there's something here, there's some presence here. So if you want to use that visualization, you can think about the things that you want to release, and they can be the feather or the leaf. And where are you in that process? Do they need to be thoroughly cleansed and removed? Do they just need to sit for a little bit so you can see, what do I need to keep from this? What do I need to toss out from this? Does it just need to have a little bit of awareness that, like, hey, I'm here? So that's one of the practices that I use, just to get a little bit more perspective, to have a little bit more insight. And obviously, you're welcome to use that. The other thing that I do oftentimes, especially with leaves, is I have a houseplant downstairs that I haven't figured out why, but periodically the leaves, some of the leaves will turn brown and fall from the plant. And maybe that's its natural cycle. I have no idea. I haven't really looked into it, like I said. But what I do is I pick those up, and instead of throwing them away, I breathe into them. And this is a little bit from my shamanic practitioner training. I breathe in my hope or my desire or my wish or whatever I want to release or even sometimes welcome into my life. I breathe that into it, and then I put it outside. And, my husband's kind of like, what are you doing? Every time I'm putting leaves outside, and that's what I'm doing. But, it's just another way of like, how can I reconnect to that in a way that it doesn't feel like pressure? It doesn't feel like I'm creating more stress for myself. And I'm really allowing just that flow to happen in a way that is a little bit more gentle, maybe a little bit more loving. So this was the time. So that full moon was at its peak for us. For me, where I live, it was the 30th. Was that Wednesday? Yes. So that was the 30th. And also, I will say, a little shout out. One of the most beautiful people I know inside and out, it was her birthday also on the 30th. So what a gift for her that she had this super full moon, blue moon on her birthday. So that was kind of cool. But when you start to think about like, what do I need? What needs to be treated? What needs to, oh, hello, Blooming Lotus says hello. Hello, I love you. Thank you for coming. What needs to be released? What needs to be treated? I say like treated in the moment. But you can start thinking about, do I completely need to let it go? Sometimes we don't. Sometimes, again, we just need to tweak it. Sometimes we need to just send love, understanding, forgiveness, either to ourselves, to another person, to an experience. And that may not be so much of like active change, but it's changing how we're interacting with ourselves and our energy. Sometimes we need to just allow the feelings and emotions to flow. We just need to let it out, whether it's crying or talking or whatever it might be. We just need to have a way of expressing that. More often it's crying for me, but that's okay. Maybe there's something that we just need to be realizing that this is here. Sometimes we go through life and we're so busy that we don't even see that we're stepping on our own toes. We don't even see that we're tripping over our own feet. Sometimes we just need to have that awareness, have that realization like, oh, that thing's here. And maybe I'm not ready to do anything with that thing, but now I know it's here. And when I am ready, then I can do something. Just acknowledging it sometimes dissipates some of the pressure that it's creating for you. This is the same. I mean, this is obviously the same when I work with clients in counseling, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Just acknowledging some of those fears, those worries, those anxieties, take a little bit of the sting away from them, because on some level our mind, our body, our spirit's like, ah, thank goodness she's recognizing this is here, right? So sometimes that's all we need to do. Sometimes we really need to examine it. We really need to pick it up and look at it from all angles, maybe talk it over with a trusted friend or partner, therapist, anybody, right? Anybody that's there. And not so much to get their feedback, not so much to get their advice, but just to have another witness. And as they're giving you, I don't know, I hate to use the word feedback because I just said not for feedback, but as they're emoting with you, as they're sending you love, as they're commiserating or whatever it might be, you're going to benefit from that. Obviously, this thing is going to benefit. It's not going to be as scary anymore. But then also, sometimes their reaction then triggers something else within you that you're like, okay, so I really need to send some love there. I really need to send some compassion or forgiveness or understanding, or I need to investigate this a little bit more. I don't understand why it's here. Sometimes it might just be like, oh, yeah, this is totally like a normal human thing. I can just go on with the fact that everybody experiences it, whatever it might be. So that practice of like taking it and looking at what needs to happen with it is really, I think, is very powerful. It's, like I said, something that I do. The other thing that I think is really important, so I think, two more things. I probably should. Whoops, sorry. That probably was a little wonky for you. Yeah, I have two more things to say. So reflecting, and if any of this makes sense, or if you are like, I don't know what you're talking about, I've never experienced stepping on my own toes, getting in my own way, being too much in my head, just if you have questions, put them in the chat. But the third thing that I wanted to talk about is reflecting on and looking how to seek balance in your life. I literally just heard this about 30 minutes ago from somebody else. So I know this is something that's been coming up for a lot of people, and it's something that I've been thinking about. The more that I dive into work with the divine feminine, the more that I'm like understanding the need for balance. And this is probably going back almost a year ago. I was working with spider medicine, and I know there's a lot of different elements to spider, but one of them was balance. And I was doing a journeying experience with a practitioner, and I actually had the vision. I don't know what you want to call it, the thought, I don't know, whatever we want to call it, of me on like this tight wire or the tightrope. And underneath me is this spider walking with me the entire length. And when I get to the end, the spider, who's like my size, basically is saying like, I'm always there to help with that balance. And in that moment, I was like, ooh, spiders. But then I was like, oh my gosh, how amazing that something is showing up for me and saying, I'll be there to help you under that under that wire, under that rope, or whatever it is. I'll be there to support you, and you can have trust in me. And that was like mind blowing for me. So I feel like those messages keep coming back about balance. And if we look at like Mother Earth, she's a reflection of us and we're a reflection of her, right? And there has been a lot of angst with change and clearing the way for new, a lot. And nature is rebalancing, nature has the ability to recalibrate. And I mean, this is just my opinion. But I kind of feel like it's in response to our, humans' impact on nature. But okay, but I'm not going to go too far into that because I know people have different perspectives, which I don't know how they. Whatever. I'm not even going to go there. But anyways, but she'll continue to do what she does, right? She'll continue to put herself in that divine balance. And so, how are we welcoming in not only the divine feminine but the sacred masculine? How are we balancing those two? Because we all, no matter who we all have both of those are both part of us. It's that yin and that yang energy, right? We all have divine feminine, we all have sacred masculine. Because of wounding, because of negative experiences, even some programming stuff from our childhood or society, religion, whatever it might be, we can sort of go into a very flawed feminine and or flawed masculine. And so that can come out in sort of toxic ways for us or for other people, right? And so we're really talking about that divine feminine, that sacred masculine. So how do you balance giving and receiving? How do you balance nurturing and protecting? How do you balance that softness and vulnerability with courage and valor? It's all that balance of either and or, right? And so it's like, how do you balance joy and creativity with maybe leadership and responsibility, or even using creative? How do you balance creative expression with more of that logical linear thinking or initiating action, right? Like, so we have to balance both of those. There's wisdom in both of those. And I think I don't know, I feel like people are, I don't know, taught kind of a false way, a false narrative is that we can't have those in balance. Well, our strength is truly in that balance. When we see we're too top heavy on one, or we're too nervous to exhibit the other, we're not going to be in balance, and we don't feel strong, and we're not able to put our full strength out into the world either. So maybe looking at, so that piece of that self-reflection of like, how are you seeking to create balance in your life is huge. So my last little point, how are we in time? Oh, we're good. Okay. My last little point with all of this, especially for the last couple of weeks, is be patient with yourself. Take a break when you need a break. Take a rest when you need a rest. Take time to recenter and ground yourself. And again, if you're telling me I don't have time, or I don't have this, I don't have that, you're making a choice. You're shifting priority. I'm keeping myself stuck in that state of stress, worry, anxiety, fear, as opposed to my natural state. And we can get so addicted to the drama that it feels weird. It feels out of sorts to be in a state of rest, or because of programming, stuff that we've learned from families. Again, it might feel like there's a negative connotation to rest. Oftentimes I hear people say like, oh, I don't want to be lazy. It's totally a difference between resting and being lazy. And so even if you are lazy, that just could be your trauma response, right? So it could be a little bit of procrastination because you're anxious about, moving forward. So give yourself a little slack with that one, but really find ways that you can take a breath, that you can take some time to rest and relax, even if it's just little snippets of time. So most days I'm still working from home, and I will go outside with Norbert, my dog. We'll go outside and I'll just sit in the sun or the clouds or whatever weather is doing that day. I'll just sit outside for a few minutes and just breathe just listen to the birds. Right now we have a lot of cicadas, a lot of crickets and grasshoppers that I can hear, or frogs and toads at nighttime. I'll just sit and listen and just be still. And that's all you have to do to take a break or take a rest. Just pulling yourself out from your normal grind, so to speak, and just connecting with yourself. So, one thing I want to say about why it's so important to also take time to recenter and ground yourself is sort of an analogy it's kind of like anything. Well, if you have kids, or if you remember yourself as a child learning how to ride a bike, right? When you think about a new skill that you're trying, or something that you're trying to support in a different way, you get it when you're grounded. And you probably, like, thinking about kids, whether yourself as a kid or having a kid and seeing them trying to learn how to ride that bike, they fall off, they get upset, they get frustrated. They usually take a couple breaths to steady themselves, right? Sometimes it's out of frustration, but it's still there. And then we start to give ourselves that positive affirmation of, like, you can do this, you got this, maybe a parent or an older sibling's cheering them on. And they need to tell themselves that same message as well, sort of like the little train that could, I think I can. And we shift our focus. It's all usually very unconscious, but we shift our focus back to the thing that we're trying on. And when we're in that state of truly being present, that's when it flows. That's when we get the hang of balance. That's how we figure out how to turn the wheels at the same time and hold on to the handlebars, right? That's when we go. And even if we just go for a couple feet and then, dump the bike, that's okay. Like, there was a moment that we got it. There was a moment that we were doing these things that were really supporting whatever that skill was, or whatever we were trying to accomplish. Um, we always have, hopefully, a little bit of celebration at the end. That's always a good thing, because then that reinforces that we're on the right track, and we're going to just keep trying and excelling at that. And so, even if you're like, oh, I don't know how to take a breath, I don't know how to take a break, I don't know how to rest, I want you to sort of think about it as a new skill. When you do these other things, when you use breath to study yourself, when you tell yourself you've got this, or you can do this, when you shift your focus back on the task of getting it right, of learning that balance, learning, how to, ride the bike, or whatever it might be, things start to flow. So just give yourself a little bit of permission you'll get it right sometimes, and sometimes you won't, and that's okay. But eventually, if you just practice enough, it becomes a new habit, a new healthy habit, probably, if it's, meditation or mindfulness or something like that. So I do think it's so important for us to look at, when we talk about releasing, it's not so much of like, oh, I just am going to set that intention to release something, right? There's probably some steps that go along with that. And these are the things that help me to get into that process of releasing. Now, if you're not really sure, like, I don't even know what I need to be releasing, I don't even know where my struggle is, I would encourage you to do a little bit of journaling, and just kind of free flow journaling about your life. If you need prompts, it can be as simple as, like, what's going on in my life right now? What is going well? What is not going well, right? But just journaling a little bit sort of it bypasses eventually the conscious mind, and we're able to get a lot of information out there that we wouldn't have been thinking about, or usually we're not thinking about it. And it gives you sort of a pulse of, like, what's working, what isn't. And so when we think about what we want to be releasing, it's the stuff that's not working for us. And we always say, for, like, our highest good. So if I release this relationship, or I walk away from this job, or I start to think about a new path for myself, it's always something that's going to bring more into your life, and hopefully more like happiness, joy, contentment, peace, whatever. But we want to be feeling more of that. And it's funny, on my website, I know I have two different websites, my counseling and then my Reiki and coaching one, but on my Rivers Journey Wellness, I have on there becoming the best version of yourself. And I have heard best version of yourself like 3 times this week. Not that things have to happen in threes, but I'm like, That's so interesting. I always talk about that as well. And I think that that's what when we're talking about releasing, we want to release things that aren't allowing us to fully show up authentically, genuinely as the best version of ourselves. That is the goal, obviously, in therapy. It's probably the goal in most coaching. It's probably the goal in energetic healing, is that we're able to reveal that purest part of ourselves, that golden light from within, the best version of ourselves. So sometimes that releasing seems very, I don't know, big and out there, but that's really what that means. So, with that, any questions, any comments, anything that you're wondering about, or like, oh, that makes sense. I don't know. Put it into the chat. Otherwise, we'll get comfortable soon to do a little bit of Reiki and guided meditation. I don't know if I want to call it guided meditation. It's meditative time. Nothing. Okay. All right. So I invite you to get comfortable. Hopefully, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. I always have to add that piece. Not that you would, but CYA. So if you're able to close your eyes, I invite you to close your eyes. If you're not somewhere, I always think about people that are listening at work. If you can't close your eyes at your desk, just look past your device, past your computer, past your phone, whatever it is, just so you're able to soften your eyes a little bit. And just start taking in some deep breaths. Oh, JL says, I love the analogy of looking at yourself like a child learning the bicycle. So true. This week was quite a lesson. Needed these tips. Thank you. You're welcome. It was quite a week, right? I know you and I know somebody that also had a very challenging beginning to her week. And it seems like a lot of people that I've talked to this week have felt some stress. So hopefully this will be good for us to get focused and recenter ourselves, balance ourselves on that bike so we can just ride away. Aw, Jael says, oh yes, she made it. Thanks to you. I don't know about that. She is a brave, strong woman. So that comes from her. And I always say, and her, well, possibly her grandfather as well, because he likes to pop in. So, okay, so just get comfortable. And we're starting to just do a little bit of self-reflection. Just taking time for rest, taking time to recenter ourselves, to ground ourselves. The easiest way for me to do it is through breath, just taking deep breaths in. You can do it through the nose and exhaling and releasing out through your mouth. No specific pattern, just in and out deeply, whatever works for you. Sometimes we get so caught up in, am I doing it right? If you're doing it your way, you're doing it right. So with the breath, we just bring our attention back to the body, back to our inner light, back to ourself. We're able to quiet the mind, the thing that gets us in trouble. So I think for a lot of us, this week has been all about illumination, a rare and powerful illumination, but all about seeing more clearly the things that have been creating struggle for us. So I'm just going to send a little bit of Reiki while I talk, so you'll see my hands up. I'm still here. But this also has been a time not only for illumination, but a time for letting go and releasing. It truly was a time beckoning for rest and reflection. And to receive Reiki, I didn't mention, you just have to be open. Just acknowledge that you're open in your own way to receiving. And know that a practice of trusting yourself, trusting the timing, trusting that transformation will happen if we begin to follow our intuition, allowing for recalibration and refinement, just like Mother Earth is doing. I got a big sigh out of Norbert. But we're giving ourselves permission right now to burn away any struggles, anything that has been a source of tension for us, something that has been tripping us up or stepping on our toes. Allow your higher wisdom to step forward to not only show you what is ready to be released, also a promise that your intention, it's not going to, I always wonder if it's just going to be words. It's not. If you're setting that intention, you're putting that into motion. Your intuition can guide you to places. After we release, we can start welcoming in. Just to have that trust, just for even a moment. Give yourself that permission to release. This full moon was in Pisces, so it can get carried away on the current through the water. With full moons, we often do fire, so you can put it into fire. Just imagining that you're opening to your next awakening. And if you need a little support for releasing, for letting go, I got you. Just unwinding whatever's been causing us stress or worry. The habits, the patterns, the relationships that aren't supportive, that are probably a little wonky, that we've probably been doing for a while. Just loosening that up, softening that. Or if you're ready, just giving yourself permission to release it entirely. So when we're awakening to that new, serving us better thing, whatever we want to call it, we want to stay open, like the little sparrow, drawing in big, big energy from the divine into your heart, into your throat chakras, just allowing it to bolster your strength, witnessing your own power, so that you can bring your unique song forward. And in your mind's eye, just imagine allowing the setting sun to dip in the west and the rising moon to emerge in the east, allowing both of those to bring you balance. You can send what no longer serves you from your heart center to that blazing sun to be transformed and transmuted as it sets behind the horizon. Allowing you to have space for intuitive knowing and wisdom from the rising moon. Allowing that energy to just expand and grow within you. Letting it completely fill up your physical body and your energetic body. Drawing on strength from the divine, from your guides, from your allies, from your ancestors, from any ascended masters, from any archangels or goddesses. I've called the Great Goddess for sacred unity into our space today. Along with the wisdom of the West. And wolf spirit, so that you can turn your knowledge into your own wisdom. It's just for you. I'm going to be quiet for a little bit as we allow for that integration, but also just allowing time for whatever needs to be released to just go. Whatever we need to draw into ourselves, just giving ourselves a little extra time. I'm going to grab one more crystal. This big, heavy crystal for the heart. With reflecting and rest, we tune back into our intuition. We reconnect to ourselves and our higher wisdom. We tune out all the garbage, what we hear from other people, or our experiences, our past experiences. We make room for what feels true and in integrity with ourselves, genuine and authentic. And I want you to receive the following messages. You are the teacher that you've been searching for. You are the salve or the healing that you've thought that you've been in need of. You are the messenger, the seer, the alchemist of turning your own dreams into your own reality. you can clearly see the lessons in your experiences. And your inner knowing, your inner wisdom knows that it's now time to make room for new possibilities. It's time to turn your knowledge into wisdom, trusting that you can transform your pain into sacred knowledge, understanding yourself a little bit deeper. It's time to stand tall and proud in your power. And gratefully seeing the beauty that remains after your self-reflection and rest. I'm just going to seal in the energy. I got a big stretch from Norbert. So just take another deep breath, just bringing yourself back in your own time. I need a lot of big breaths. I needed a lot of space this week. A lot of time for rest, reflection. So if anything came to you during that time of meditation or distance Reiki, I'd love to hear. I don't know why, but I saw like horses running. Maybe that's our freedom. I don't know. And then I saw like a flower like opening, like the bud opening into the flower. And it was a rose, but it was like, remember those time lapse videos you saw in like science class as kids? It was kind of that with like the sun coming up and going down and this, this little flower opening. So that's what kind of came to me during that time. I don't know if anything came to you guys. I'm always curious on how the energy is received and interpreted by you for you, right? So I'm going to. Oh, thank you, Blooming Lotus. That's so beautiful. She knows I needed a little bit of balance this week. Yeah. It's also a good time. I mean, this is off topic, but it's also a good time to look at like, do I need to physically detox my body? What am I putting into my body? Do I need to drink a little bit more water? Do I need to, I don't know, rest? I need sleep. I know that. I always have connection to flowers. Oh, I love that. So for you, is it ever a specific one? I feel like different flowers come to me at different times. Maybe it's the different energies. And different animals come at different times. I guess it's not, I guess, it is the different energies. Yes, we all do. we all need a little bit of balance. We deserve that. We deserve that time. And I know if anyone's listening that's whether you're a woman or a man, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter how you identify yourself or what you feel that you are here in this existence. We all deserve that. And I think oftentimes we get messages that like, no, you got to keep doing, you got to keep being busy. And that just creates more stress for us. And so giving yourself that permission. Roses and lotuses, but roses are the most. Oh, I always connect to sunflowers. I love sunflowers. I love them. They're so bright and sunny and cheery. And I don't know what they represent, but I always feel like they just represent like the fullness of summer and just joy. And they're really tall, right? They're really tall. So big energy of joy. So yeah, I love that. Well, hopefully this is a good way. That is so cool, says JL. Yeah, it's super cool. Hopefully this is a good way for you to maybe reflect on the energy that we've had this week. Some of the retrogrades are ending, some of the retrogrades are continuing. There was a big message, I think, with especially with the rest. It's hard to see the Blooming Lotus says, "It's hard to see the sunflower and not feel joy." I know, right? I feel the same way. I also get joy, and people laugh at this. I also get joy when I see a dandelion. I know it's so weird, but I just think they just look happy and they look full, and I just love them. And then I feel the same way about, well, I guess I feel the same way about lilies, although those feel a little bit more intimate. And then daisies. Daisies are always just like silly and happy. Um, yeah. I lost my train of thought. I was thinking about flowers. What was I saying? Um, oh, I know what I was going to say. So one of the things was wounded healer that had come up a lot with Chiron was in retrograde, and so it was like, oh my gosh, all the things that sort of are our compass, the thing that's guiding us, the thing that really is moving us to do what we do in life, bring our gifts and our talents forward in life. Um, it usually comes from a place of pain, and you probably already know that, but most of us, I feel, fall into that category of wounded healer, and that we're here to soften that, to make sense of that, to turn that into action for ourselves and for others. And so that was coming up too. So if you feel like there was an old wound that was resurfacing, especially something that felt like, ooh, that really got me. That really got me in the feels. Um, that was really deep for me. Just know you got to be gentle with yourself, especially during this time, but also a time to reflect, a time to give yourself permission to rest, give yourself permission to recalibrate, and just see, why is this coming up for me now? Um, so Blooming Lotus Healing says, "Oh my God, it was just you're just looking at your chart, and my wounded healer is definitely something I struggle with. Mine is in Taurus. Oh, interesting. Yeah, isn't it? I got to work towards nourishing. Yes, nourishing yourself is so huge. Well, oftentimes it's not. Nurturing and nourishing ourselves is something that I feel like I'm going to make a t-shirt out of that one too, because we are not really programmed to do that, right? We're always programmed to give to others. You got to take care of your friend, take care of this, take care of that. But there's never that opportunity to take care of ourselves. And if we come from families where there's dysfunction or funky roles in the family, even if there's some like smushing or quelching down of the divine feminine, I feel like we don't get that message of like, we have the right to nurture and nourish ourselves. We are worthy of that, right? And just because we're here, just because we're in this body for this experience or this existence, we deserve that peace. That's part of something from birth. It's our birthright, but I think that it gets kind of smushed down a little bit. And then we hear stuff like you're being selfish, you're being lazy, you're not thinking of others, or you're not contributing in a way. And it's all for power and control. But I think that we do need to work on that practice of giving ourselves that permission and seeing what it means for you, right? Because sometimes the way that you're going to nourish or nurture yourself is going to be very different from somebody else. I am, if you guys know me, I'm pretty big introvert. So I need like quiet time. I need time alone. I need time in nature. I need time with my animals. I just need time away from other humans, even the humans that I love. Um, I just need time to to I don't know, rejuvenate myself, and that's how I do it. And so we all need different stuff. Extroverts, you probably need more connection with people. You need to have that mirrored back to you, right? And so just knowing yourself and knowing what works for you is huge, and then making time for that, recognizing when things sort of go off go off the rails, and like, okay, now this is the time that I need to bring it back to myself. And it took me a really long time, before I started seeing the value in self-care, self-love, self-compassion. And under that big umbrella is like nurturing, nourishing yourself, right? It took me a really long time. I felt, from even when I was a little kid, I felt like I was here to be of service. And I was, I think, sometimes for good, sometimes when I was a teenager, maybe for, for bad, but I was of service. And, it took me a little bit to figure out, like, I need that time, for myself before I can give. And actually, Blooming Lotus Healing is the one that said, and I don't remember where you got this from. I'm sorry, I forgot who told you this. But instead of giving from your cup, giving from your overflow of your cup. And that was like, yes, I love that message, right? I can't tell you how many people I have told that message to, about, you have to be able to give that from the overflow, because otherwise you deplete yourself. And I was just just talking in the short, earlier this week. I don't know what that day that was. I think that was Wednesday. I can't remember. But I was talking about how I've completely burned out myself, mind, body, and spirit. I mean, like, completely burned out my adrenals. And like, my doctor was like, "What the heck are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I was a bundle of stress. I was working myself too hard. I was giving too much of myself. I felt like I needed to carry too much of the burden, stuff that wasn't even mine that I was holding. I felt like I needed to just fix things. I needed to do at work. There was an expectation that I was doing a million different things when I worked in not for profits, because that is the world of not for profits. But the first time you would have thought like, oh, okay, you completely burn yourself out. You would have thought like I would have tweaked something or pivoted, but I didn't. I didn't at all. I did it again. And then I was like, shoot, I really need to do something different. So it took me a really long time. I feel like I need those messages over and over and over again before I make change. It's just who I am. It's how I am. I get that piece. Um, Blooming Lotus Healing says, yes, I saw that from a speech. I can't remember her name now, but yes, overflow is where we need to give from. I love that. And really recognizing when that cup is getting too empty, right? We don't want it to get to fumes. We don't want to blow out our adrenal system. And I wreaked more havoc with my autoimmune, my with doing that. But it was interesting when I was going to regular acupuncture. She was saying, I can only bring you back so far. Like, you've set yourself so far back that whatever your baseline was, I don't know if we can get back up to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was mind blowing. So really taking that time to nurture and nourish mind, body, and spirit, it is so important. And I don't think it's always stuff that we're taught. So if you're like, what the heck do I do? I don't even know where to start. Shameless plug. You can come to my secret circle. I will help you with that. You can book a coaching session. You can book a Reiki session. There are so many practitioners out there that are absolutely fabulous. They have such wonderful gifts and talents. Book a session with another practitioner. I'm on a platform called Evolve Me. Go to that. Go see another practitioner that can help connect you to yourself, or connect those answers to the questions that you're having. Just find somebody else. I did say that you are the teacher that you've been looking for, and I absolutely think that's true. But if you feel like you're at a place where you're like, I don't even know where to start with somebody that has gone through the process themselves, and can give you a little bit of insight, a little bit of a nudge in the right direction. And then you can take it. Those reins are in your hands, and you can go off in your own direction, and you will find your own direction. Because I know I have in my own practice of energy healing, and then also how I integrate some shamanic work in, right? So you'll find your own way. Sometimes you just need that support of another person. So I mean, practitioners are out there, and you should definitely connect if you feel like you don't know where to start. And if you don't know where to start with that self-care and self-compassion, I have a fabulous book. I love it so much. It's on my bookshelf right now. I'll pull it down. Hopefully it won't fall. my book's not, it's very precarious the way that it's leaning right now. Okay. It's called Living, and I even have like stuff tabbed in it. It's called Living with Your Heart Wide Open. And I can put that into the description later. But it's Steve Flowers and Bob Stahl. It's absolutely fabulous. I love this book. I recommend so many clients to read this. If you're like, I don't know where to start with self-compassion, all right, I know where you can. This is where you can start. So yeah, well, hopefully everybody, I know we're almost at the hour. Hopefully everybody has a fabulous weekend. If you have the Labor Day weekend off, that's wonderful. Just take some time to rest, take some time to reflect, take some time to release, see what comes up for you, see what you can make room for more growth for yourself. Yeah, so just sending everyone love. I'm going to blow out the candle. And wishing everybody a fabulous week. Take care.